Who's our Josh Allen? Who's the U.S. men's national team Josh Allen?
It should be Tillman at some point.
Right? That was my first thought. Just the athleticism and body of Tillman to me. That is our Josh Allen. And all right, then who's our Puka Nacua?
It's turning into Yunus Musa, I think. Welcome back to Yanks Abroad. We have another player performance update as well as a Yanks Abroad update. And as always, we will finish with some power rankings. It was not the greatest week for the U.S. men's national team. We have to call it how it is. Headlined by Christian Pulisic's injury, unfortunately. Will, before we get into the Yanks Abroad update and the player performances, player performances today are Ricardo Pepi and Antonee Robinson. But your thoughts on the injury?
I mean, I feel like we kind of saw this coming maybe 2 months ago when he got pulled from the U.S. men's national team during some friendlies for playing too many matches, basically just like overload. Then we've kind of seen it over the last 6 weeks, like not starting every match. Like he didn't start the Sassuolo match midweek. I think it's been clear that he's been carrying something, and it finally just gave on Friday, against Atalanta, 38 minutes in the calf injury. But hey, if it's calf tightness, it's January 3rd. That sounds precautionary to me. Like he didn't pull anything too severely, I would have to guess, because otherwise it would probably be more like 6 to 8 weeks. So it's probably like grade 1, whatever it is. So I mean, it could be worse. That is my feeling at the moment.
I agree. This isn't, or knock on wood, doesn't feel like something, if treated correctly, will be like detrimental to his career in any way, a long-term thing, nagging, hopefully not. My only thought was I just see it as like, it's crazy that Christian Pulisic has turned into the type of guy where he's so important to the team that even if he's not at 100%, he's being forced into the squad, into the starting lineup in every – it's kind of like when Christian Romero – it's the exact same thing I see at Christian Romero. We don't have center backs. He starts coming back from injury too early. He's out after 20 minutes in that match. So, yeah, a silver lining to take from that is that he's one of the, if not the most important player on one of the biggest clubs in the world. But
yeah, AC Milan are in trouble without him over the next month, and they're already having a rough go of it this year. So, I mean, they've been forcing him into the number 10 role because they're lacking creativity. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how they get through it. Hopefully, Yunus Musa steps up, but I don't really know how else they're going to get through it.
Yeah. All right. Talk to me about Jedi.
Yeah, well, let's do a quick Americans Abroad update. So we mentioned Pulisic came off the bench, played 45 minutes, an AC Milan 6-1 win over Sassuolo midweek. That was in the Coppa Italia. And then, of course, the injury against Atalanta. Yunus Musa also played 45 minutes in that Sassuolo match in the second half, and then played 90 in the 2-1 loss to Atalanta. He seemingly is the starting right winger, right midfielder right now for AC Milan and moving forward. And with Pulisic out, you'd imagine that'll continue. Would like to see a few more goal contributions from him because I think he does have that in his bag, but I don't think he's being asked to play as far forward as a Pulisic or a Leao or a Tammy Abraham. So I think that's kind of why we're not seeing it, but maybe new rule. Over to Juventus. Tim Weah played 79 minutes on the left wing in that 2-2 draw with Bologna, but he did not quite have his best game. Really couldn't find any creative outlet on that left side and was not super bright, but he didn't do anything of note that was too disappointing. And Weston McKennie not in the squad at all, which is a one to keep an eye on for sure. Over to the Premier League, Antonee Robinson played 90 minutes and had an assist in a 3-1 win over Brighton, which is the performance that I'm going to be diving deep into, so I'll save that for later. And then played 90 minutes and captained the side against Arsenal in a 1-1 draw. He did pretty well against Saka. I mean, when you're a left back going against Saka, it's usually you and 3 other players also defending Saka, so it wasn't really a 1v1 matchup all game, but he did play well. And it's interesting, I mentioned he captained the side. That's 3 matches in a row he has captained the Fulham side. So something to keep an eye on when Tom Kearney is not starting, who is the club captain. It does appear that Antonee Robinson is potentially in that leadership group at Fulham. Chris Richards played just 9 minutes off the bench in Palace's 1-0 win over Ipswich Town and did not feature against Man City. Discussion to have later on the show, but starting to get concerned about Chris Richards' involvement. I mean, he was really having a great year last year at Crystal Palace and a good start to the year, 3 matches before he got hurt, but not in the side really at the moment. Even having lost Joachim Anderson, yes, they did bring in 2 center backs, but still surprised by that. Tyler Adams started and played 90 minutes in Bournemouth's 1-0 win over Tottenham. He had 2 key passes, 1 big chance missed. He won 11 duels and made 5 tackles. Pretty insane to be honest. Like, he was really top class against Tottenham, and that's a side that's going to attack you all game long, and he did excellently in midfield. And then he was rested on the weekend against Ipswich Town just for the sake of rest. He's played a lot of minutes coming back from back surgery, so just being careful with him. But from the way Raiola is talking about him, it sounds to me like he is as important as anybody in that side, and Bournemouth are kind of flying high right now, three consecutive wins for them. Over to the Netherlands. Malik Tillman, Richie Ledesma, and Ricardo Pepi all started and scored against Twente. And Pepi also had an assist. Casey's going to get a little bit more into that performance. In Scotland, Cameron Carter-Vickers played midweek alongside Austin Trusty and kept a clean sheet. And Trusty also played on the weekend, keeping a clean sheet. So it'll be interesting to see that partnership. I don't know if Pochettino is watching a lot of it, if he's going to consider that as something he may go with. But those two guys are definitely going to be a part of the squad moving forward, I think, for the U.S. men's national team. Tanner Tessman played just fine the final 8 minutes in a 3-0 win for Lyon. Mark McKenzie played the full 90 in a 2-0 loss to Monaco. And to bookend the injury updates, Fuller and Balogun's shoulder continues to give him some issues, some pains. He was pulled out of training last week, did not make the matchday squad on the weekend, and he's a big question mark to face Arsenal on Wednesday in the Champions League. So I guess we'd rather him be careful when playing for club, but not an ideal situation for Flo Balogun.
Yeah, not the greatest week, obviously, for the U.S. men's national team, but some positives to pick out from some of the overwhelming injury nonsense that we seem to be picking up lately. But in the name of Trusty and Cameron Carter-Vickers, I saw Poch was at the Rams-Bills game yesterday, so I'm not sure how much time he's spending watching American football versus European football. So we'll see their inclusion in
now
the
that's
starting lineup or the squad.
Both of my managers, club and country, who are going to Rams games, so I'm not sure if I feel good or bad about that, but that was certainly a game to be at.
An
that
electric
was
game for sure.
Not a bad one.
Sure.
Hopefully, he learned a little bit about some offensive skills.
Yeah, good way.
Over to the US
good way
men's
to
national
ingratiate Poch into the American culture with a 44.
Who's our Josh Allen? Who's the U.S. men's national team? Josh Allen.
It should be Tillman at some point.
Right? That was my first thought. Just the athleticism and body of Tillman, to me, that is our Josh Allen. And all right, then who's our Puka Nacua?
It's turning into Yunus Musa, I think.
Really? I was going to go Tessman. I like
Okay.
Yunus Musa. I like it. I just feel like Puka is like a unicorn. I feel like Tessman's a bit of a unicorn. But,
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. All right.
All right. Tell me about Ricardo Pepi's performance. I mean, all three Americans scoring in this one. Richie Ledesma does not get enough hype because 2 years ago, he was super, super hyped when he was in the PSV squad at 18, 19 years old. Then he tore his ACL and took 2 years to recover. But I know that's not who we're talking about. But it's exciting to see him playing.
No, it's exciting.
First goal in 2 years.
Yeah, so we're going to get right into my second most hated player, which I'm very excited about. But he has been great. I mean, by the way, he's always great for Fulham. That's never the discussion, but I'm excited to see you break this down.
I highlighted some very good things that Antonee does. I didn't highlight some of the Antonee stuff that we know he does great.
Right.
In this performance, he overlaps on the left wing so often and so well the whole game. We don't need to talk about that. We know Antonee, if he gets into a position to overlap, he's going to get down that wing and he's going to use his left foot to throw in a low, hard cross. We know the simple stuff about Antonee. I think anyone who's either new to the show or here, you know who Antonee Robinson is. But I think there's a lot of things that we get frustrated about just watching him. We just feel like, what was that? Why are you doing that? How is your touch so loose? And then there's other times where he's so athletic, and how can he use that athleticism? So there's some good and some bad from this performance. I'll start with some of the good stuff, then I'll go into some of the bad stuff, and then we'll finish with what was an interesting assist, we'll call it.
Okay.
All right. So this first play, Antonee receives the ball as a left back does, out on the left side in phase of play, coming from Bassi here, number 3. And he basically has to decide where he's going to play his next pass. I've highlighted the 4 players that I think are the reasonable places for him to play this next pass. You would think most likely 16 here, Lucic. Oh, actually, I believe that's Sanderberga, who's right here. That probably is the pass that most people play first time. But you pass it to him here, it's not really going anywhere. He's probably recycling play out to the right.
He's going backwards. 20 is pressing him. Yeah.
So I like Antonee waits for a little bit of pressure to come on. He waits for, I believe this is Minta, to take a step up towards him. And it opens up just enough space for him to put the ball into his right foot, which we don't see him do a lot. And he makes a beautiful pass in between the lines, taking out all of these players who, in this first frame, This is 1, 2, 3, 4 here. All are kind of in the pressing formation. 20 steps up as well. That's Baleba. And so he's stepping up to Mark Sanderberga. 33 is now out of position. Plays the ball to Smith Rowe, and away we go for Fulham, which to me, that's very exciting. I haven't seen Antonee do a whole lot of get that ball into his right foot and play a breaking the lines pass to a player who's great on the half turn. And that's a big press breaker. When he doesn't have to use his ball carrying to break the press, that kind of makes him a different type of player.
Yeah, I think it shows his progression, and it shows a little bit of he played in. We thought it was insane he was playing the inverted fullback role, but if he can start using both feet doing that, yeah, it's good to see for sure.
And he does one more really nice thing here in build up that I don't see a whole lot of him doing, I feel like, for the U.S. men's national team. And that might just be a stylistic way that we play. But he just gets the ball again from Bassi, who's about here out wide. And this time he doesn't really have time or a pass to play into midfield. But he does see his very strong number 9, who's great at hold up Jimenez in a 1v1 with a center back, and just dinks it right overhead, breaks the press. Jimenez controls, and again, away we go for Fulham. We've played out from the back, and we've done it altering ways. So now Brighton don't know which way to press. So I think that's a really nice play from Antonee. And one more where it's the more that I can see him make these kind of more controlled chip passes and in between the lines passes, that's his technical security taking a level up that he didn't have 2 or 3 years ago. And I just like to see him build that confidence so that he does have this wide range of passing, because that's been my biggest issue with him is he's so wasteful, either just going backwards or just running up the pitch and then kind of nothing being created, that he offers a little bit different, something a little bit different here. One more time, I think he does an interesting thing in press break. This is a little bit more on a counterattack, more of that ball carrying Antonee that we know. Obviously, you see he's picked up the ball here out in that natural left back position, carrying forward. He's kind of delaying his run as he gets a man who's coming onto him, kind of waits for Nelson here and Smith Rowe to kind of figure out where they're going. Nelson's trying to get up into the left wing area where he's most comfortable. Smith Rowe in those pockets just delays that run a bit, kind of slows himself down, cuts in and completely takes this defender out of play, getting onto his right foot yet again. And then as Nelson gets away, Antonee again plays it with his right foot into Smith Rowe. Short pass, of course, but he's now taken out these two players. These two players are now taken out of play. And, Nelson's getting in behind over here. Smith Rowe has a lot of options. He's got 2 players over here. So, it's nothing super amazing, but again, Antonee not just sprinting up the pitch is not something that we're used to. So that's kind of why I highlighted it. Exactly. All right. Now I'd like to talk about kind of the stuff that I think really frustrates us about Antonee. And I feel that in this performance, I was really able to pinpoint one specific thing that really, really cannot continue to happen, because it will make us pay in the biggest games. And that's just kind of, it's not wastefulness. It's not being composed as a defender and understanding where the ball is coming from and where it needs to go. And I'll explain that more as we go. So this is number 1. This is Brighton are just playing kind of deeper into Fulham zone. A loose pass comes to Antonee here. There's nowhere for him to go with it, really. He's got 2 Brighton players right in front of him. He just needs to go long and clear it. And though, you live to fight another day. Instead, he tries to dink a ball over here to Smith Rowe, who's already got a man on. And it just goes to this player right here. And Brighton have regained possession inside their box basically immediately. Right. With the back line, Antonee's now all the way out wide up here. You've left a huge space in here. Your center backs are not in the same line. So if this player makes a quick run in here, goal for Brighton. Doesn't happen, but those kinds of things, and there are worse ones to come, are just not acceptable. Another time. So here this ball is rolling across. Antonee should just take his right boot here and swing it out. He's got on his own. He's got 2 Brighton players here. Nobody over here you can play the ball to. Instead, he tries to use his left foot. He basically hits it about 2 yards, and it turns into a shot for Estupinian inside the box. Just rolls right to him.
That's insane.
Luckily, no goal comes from it, but the ball does bounce back to Antonee, and he heads it right back into the same spot. This is 2 seconds later. Off that shot, it hits off Bassi, goes up in the air, and Antonee goes to head it clear. And instead of trying to head it out here or head it back for a corner kick, which anywhere else, he puts it right back on the penalty spot. This ball lands here, and then there's a duel between a Estupinian and a Iwobi. Ball ends up kind of scrumbling at the feet and eventually gets away. But again, it's just the awareness and composure as a defender needs to be better if you're going to be one of our leaders on the pitch. You just have to lead by example. And if we're going to defend for 65 out of 90 minutes of a World Cup match, we're going to be giving up goals if we do shit like this.
Agreed.
And this does continue to happen. So here a ball is played in from this area. It's not this player, but it's a player over here.
Mhm.
Antonee gets a very late jump on the ball, decides instead of just settling into playing in a 1v1, he's going to try and chase this ball off the bounce before it gets over to Minta. He completely makes no contact with it, misses it. Luckily
Is that
for
him
Antonee,
asking for offsides, or is
no,
he just...
he's asking for a handball, which he does get it. It bounces up, and Minta completely miscontrols it. It goes off of Minta's knee and up into his arm. But had that not happened, this is a disaster. Antonee has gone from here with the ball bouncing this way to here without touching it. It's just bad decision making, right? Like if you're not 100% sure you're getting this, you need to hold where you are and play a 1v1 defense as a bouncing ball and just hope that you don't get beat. Not hope, but you should feel comfortable that you won't.
Right.
And this happens one more time, but this one more shows why Antonee gets away with it so often. This ball comes in behind. Great run by the Brighton player to get in between Bassi and Antonee. Really a smart run, a really nice ball in behind. Antonee, again, gets beat. This ball just rolls into space for him, but we know his recovery speed, gets on the right side of it, and the ball goes out for a goal kick, actually, just because of Antonee's presence. So kind of wanted to end on a positive note in that section, because the reason Antonee does get away with this kind of lack of composure sometimes is the athleticism that he contains, and it allows him to get back into position. And he did have a lot of really nice defensive moments in this game, but I mean, that's 4 times in 90 minutes where pretty much his mistake easily should have led to a goal.
And by the way, he's 20. He's going to be 29 at the World Cup. Like, the athleticism starts to deteriorate. And I think one thing that Kyle Walker did well when moving to Man City is he started to understand, to a degree, better defensive principles. And that's why he was such an integral part to those City squads. And then when you see the athleticism go to a different level, he becomes like, he didn't continue the inverse relation of athleticism going down and IQ and defensive responsibilities going up. That wasn't directly correlated in the same degree, and then it becomes a liability for Man City defensively because he can no longer make it up with his athletic acumen and him switching off. I mean, it happens for England too, him switching off, not having good defensive mindset and holding his responsibilities results in him being a bit of a liability at the back, which I could see happening to Jedi if he becomes not as fast and being able to do exactly what you just showed.
For sure. And if he really is going to be asked to invert, then not only is, a player who's not really the most positionally aware in defense going to, he's going to have to be even more aware, right? They lose the ball, not him necessarily, but if any player loses the ball, you're now completely out of position. You need to find the man you're supposed to be marking. And oftentimes, and I see it a lot with Arsenal, and one of the main reasons we brought in a Calafiori and a Timber is you end up having to go slot in at center back because your left center back has had to go cover out wide for you, right? So that's a little bit worrying if, center backs have to do these types of clearances all the time. A lot of those mistakes we just saw. And so, again, I'm not sure the plan is for him to invert, but it's still worth noting.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, a couple more of the positive stuff. This is a different type of cross than what I'm used to seeing from Antonee. I think a lot of the stuff we see at that low, hard crosses, let's just be clear. He does have tons of space out there on the left side. But it is a crowded box, and this ball is played just perfectly to Raul Jimenez, who the ball bounces right about here and goes wide. But a really, really well-played ball by Antonee. Perfect chip cross. Enough pace on it that Jimenez doesn't have to create his own power. But unfortunately not an assist, but nonetheless, a really nice cross.
Yep.
And then lastly, for the assist, Antonee, again, for Fulham, he does not invert at all. He's out on the sideline, picks the ball up, gets by Tariq Lamptey, which is also not an easy thing to do, equally as fast player, and then realizes there's nothing going on the byline, turns inside, which I don't see him do much, and plays a very nice outside of the boot ball here into Iwobi's path, who takes a couple dribbles in and scores into the right corner. It's kind of like it's not the world's greatest assist. I liked the way that he decided not to just get to the byline
it's not a force.
Swing and across. Yeah. Right. Like there's, as you can see, like this is Jimenez, this is Iwobi. There's not a number 9 sitting here. Don't just throw it across to nobody. Instead, he looks to recycle play, sees he's got, an attacking midfielder in good space, and it does turn into a goal. So you see a little development from Antonee in terms of playing in possession. which we do like to see. The out of possession stuff and the defensive stuff does need to improve, but an overall good performance from Antonee, and continues to be, one of the most important players for Fulham, who have been pretty spectacular this year in comparison to what maybe people expected from them.
Yeah. No, it's a good example of the positives and the negatives that he provides. And you said it with Tyler Adams, him being an integral part to a Bournemouth team that is succeeding at a high level. Same with Fulham. We talked about how integral Pulisic is. Like, these U.S. men's national team players are not only starting for their clubs consistently, but starting to be one of the more important players for all these teams, which is obviously extremely exciting. The Pepe performance, I meant to do the Tyler Adams performance, couldn't find the performance, and fell into the Pepe performance, which I'm actually extremely excited about because there's a lot of hype around Pepe. And this actually isn't me coming from a people may not know if you're new to the show, which I know we have some new viewers. I'm not the biggest Pepe fan. This is actually not coming from my preconceived Pepe hatred. I think this is a good performance to show because a lot of people are not watching PSV, myself included. I actually did watch this match, but I'm not watching a ton of the PSV matches. So it's a lot of like tweets. Oh, Pepe scores again. Tillman scores again. Oh, they must be killing it. But PSV are dominant in this league, and he's getting a lot of chances as a result. And when he comes off with a goal and assist, you think, oh, pretty good. And then all the scoring systems, they'll give him high 7s, 8s, and you think he had a great match. But the further you dive deep into this one, I actually did not think he was great, and I thought he was fairly wasteful at times. So we'll get into this now. First off, my biggest takeaway, 20 might be the most unorganized back line and banks of defense that I've ever seen. The spaces that I will give Pepe maybe credit to this, that he was finding himself in so much empty space, but they were not tracking very well in the slightest. Give me 1 second. So here is a ball into Pepe. He makes a good run into the open space. But as you can see through the circle, he is in a ton of empty space.
Yeah.
So the ball comes in. Again, still a ton of space, but you obviously have 2 to 4 players closing him down. So originally what I'm thinking is you just take a touch and maybe play it out wide and filter back centrally for a cross. Or the ball was coming with enough pace to where he could have let it bypass him and he could have gotten to the byline. Tillman's making a run. I believe this is Bakayoko. He could have made a run inside. Or the last option, which is the one he goes for, is a back flick into the space with Tillman coming on. And then the assumption is Tillman then goes out wide to Bakayoko. He doesn't have that flick in his bag just yet. It's a wasted opportunity. I believe this is Hill. Who's 34?
Yeah.
Do you know? It's Hill?
Yeah, yep.
All right. Yeah. So not even touching on him in this last one. He's also there if you take it to the byline and you get the cross in, but he does the back flick. It's not even close, and they're out the other way. So I just thought that was a little wasteful from when you have not only this much space, but so many options. I don't hate going for the back flick, and maybe Tillman's calling for the ball, and they are creating this little innate connection that we would love, but just seemed a little wasteful with that amount of space. The second one here is a great cross. He does well to get in front of his man, but he is 4.5, 5 yards out. He gets a little bit of a push. It's a full 2-hand push.
Yeah, I mean, that's a shove.
That's a shove. And so I'll give him that. There's a reason I circled it because I wanted to give him off a little bit. But from 4 yards, you got to score. He heads it directly into the ground, straight at the goalkeeper. This is just something this is a position to where you want to score. And I circled it to give him a little off, but you can't see in the video. The push is not, it looks more exaggerated. I just happened to screenshot it at the perfect time. Props to myself there. But the push did not move him off of his spot as much as you may think from this picture. So just would have liked to have seen him do better there from 4 or 5 yards out. Does not score there. Next one is you go out from the back from the goalkeeper. And this is kind of what I was talking about, how 20 is so out of position and just kind of sporadic with they're like half pressing here, half not. He ends up completely isolated. Like his partner center back, I genuinely have no idea where he is. He
Like, you
does
don't
a
know which
really
one of
good-
these three guys it is?
Literally no idea. He is completely isolated right here. But does a fantastic job of pinning the defender to him. A little good fortune. It kind of just bangs off both of their legs and ends up going forward. But he does really well here to shield him off once the bounce does happen forward. And then the comp switch perspectives here. But I think it's honestly a great perspective. So he wins it here. This defender ends up on his left shoulder.
Right.
He completely shrugs him off.
And gets onto his strong right foot, which is nice.
And he's into empty space, dinks the goalkeeper, but does not score.
This doesn't go in?
This does not go in. So Another wasted opportunity. It goes wide, but yeah, I mean, shows a lot of strength. We love the physical profile, as we've talked about. That's why a lot of people like him. Shrugs off the defender, but does not score again. So at this point in the match, he should have 2 goals. And if you go back to the first one, he should have had at least a big chance created, an assist, something from this. He should have had a goal from here and a goal from here. And at this point, we're at 0 big chances created and 0 goals, 0 assists. So
you wonder how because obviously he's now pretty heavily rumored. It feels like he's leaving PSV at the end of this year. That feels like a given, unless something horrible goes wrong in the next 4 months. So you wonder because for me, I think you and I look at this very differently. Like, I mean, I think the 1v1 I'm on with you, like you got to be scoring there. But I like a lot of the positions he gets into. I like a lot of the movement. I like his willingness to continue going at the goal, even when he's not scoring. Like, I think a lot of strikers get very discouraged and then try to just affect the game in different ways. But the wastefulness, like at a big club, fans are not going to be, shrugging that off the way that we are, because I don't really care if PSV win. I want Pepe to just continue to get better.
Exactly.
So I wonder what the size club is for him. I mean, I wonder if it's like a Dortmund. They like to go to the Netherlands and buy strikers.
For sure.
Obviously, they have Garase and lots of other forwards. I mean, they have so many forwards. So I don't know if that's the answer, but it's interesting.
No, it's always a difficult conversation where it's like, all right, we see this a lot. I would compare it to like the Portuguese league. Like, even when you talk about Gyökeres, I mean, he seems to be in the form regardless of where he's worth getting him in. But like, people aren't watching Sporting matches, so you see but is he creating so many chances and missing some, and we just don't know it in the Portuguese league? Or is he as clinical as the stats are coming off? And it's like, here, do you love that Pepe's getting himself into so many goal scoring chances and it's just not coming off, and regression to the mean at will, or whatever you want to say? It's just great that he's creating these attacking opportunities. Or is it the Dutch league and he's only going to get one of these three opportunities, and if you waste it, so it's always a difficult conversation where you want to take the positives that he's doing well to get himself into this position, but at the same time, you can't afford to be this wasteful. And this does not happen in the Premier League. You are not pinned 1v1.
Very unlikely.
Like, that's just not happening.
No, I mean, the one thing I would say is, even though I agree with the fact that, like, in the Premier League, he's not going to get this many chances to score goals, but at the same time, like, the physical offering, the ability to play with his back to goal is something that translates to a side that's going to have 40 or fewer % possession on average very well. So
to where taking the pressure off for a smaller club is maybe worth an entire goal. So I agree with you there.
Like Crystal Palace, to me, I feel like he fits in there nicely. Like, I think he's a similar profile to Mateta in a lot of ways, and like all he needs is a run of goals to be like. And he does score. Definitely, yes, he gets so many chances, but he is scoring bags of goals.
Sure. No, I don't want to present it as a anti-Pepe thing. It's an interesting discussion to have, and just like, I think that's why we see a lot of like, where did Højlund come from?
He was at Sturm Graz, and then he was at Atalanta.
Yeah. I mean, you just see, like, not that we agree Serie A is becoming a very serious league, but you just see some of these physically dominant players who may not be super clinical or young, and they just come in and they struggle a little bit. So it's not. No,
I think the Serie A might be a better move for him. Like, I could see him at Milan. Like, I genuinely think at Milan he could be incredible. He's a similar profile to what they keep trying to do, like Tammy Abraham, Giroud. Like, that is the Milan profile of 9. Like, that's just the born and bred how the club has been forever. I mean, even Inzaghi was that kind of profile. So I don't know. I wonder if that is
Yeah.
maybe a better fit for him. I don't know if that's too big of a like. It's hard for me to know as a U.S. fan, like if Ricardo Pepi is someone that's being considered, or I'm just getting the propaganda that of every little transfer rumor that's made up. That he's
exactly.
like, because like I've seen Dortmund,
No,
Milan,
same.
like all these clubs rumored, but like, is he really going to that big of a club? Or
I think
does,
it's a balance. It's we see
Frankfurt
all of
make more
it,
sense?
and like people are this interested in him. So, all right, let's move on. Here is his first assist. Again, I didn't use the screenshot before because I didn't think the movement was great and like something to highlight. But he essentially just moves into this space where there was literally so much of it, and receives the ball. But he does well. He kind of fakes like he's going to shoot it, draws this defender in, plays here. The reason I highlight this, and it shouldn't go completely unnoticed, is a lot of times you see with square balls when people are moving, like Hill is moving fast, Pepe's moving fast.
That's actually Salmon, the guy who scored 2 goals in this game. Hill's not there anymore, I don't believe.
Yeah, that's gonna age well. Anyways, he comes onto the ball, kind of full speed. Pepe's full speed, and he plays it the perfect weight. You see a lot of these times with these square balls, they can end up too far, gets caught up in his feet, it's behind him, whatever it may be. So it was a good ball. The only problem is he wants him to stop, and he wants to play the 1-2. So when he picks up the ball, to Pepe's credit, he picks up the ball perfectly and just runs with it. But then he kind of brings 38 with him, which kind of crowds the space because he was expecting the 1-2.
He's expecting that ball right back through and behind and a tap-in goal.
Yeah. It didn't end up mattering. It was a great finish. And Pepe's ball was the reason that he was able to take it in stride, and it didn't end up messing anything up. But here's his assist. Nothing too crazy, but just a solid assist, good weighted ball. And in another world, that's a good run where it is a 1-2, and he ends up scoring. This, again, they were up a good amount. I don't remember what the score was exactly.
4-1 when he scored?
Yeah, but this was not his goal. So specifically here, they were definitely winning, and the game was getting stretched. But he ends up in a ton of space. Ball is played here. So here this is, I always go back and forth with things like these. So he kind of squares up the defender. Like here, he's in a clear one-on-one. If he just runs full speed and kind of just fakes like he's going to go inside and puts it onto his left foot, he gets a clear goal scoring opportunity. Instead, he kind of squares it up. The defenders have time to track back, but he squares up the defender well. You can see I would have gone like fake like you're going to go inside and then take all this space here and just try and finish on your left foot. He brings him in. He absolutely does that defender. Like he is looking the complete wrong direction. But in turn,
can you go back one frame? What happens here? Is he just running at full speed, this defender, and can't stop?
He cuts inside, and the defender, instead of opening his body up that way, like bringing his left foot back, he tries to do the 360 turn to catch up. So he's in the process of doing a 360 turn, but it was just screenshotted.
That's shocking.
Funny, yeah.
Yeah.
But the point is he takes that's not even this defender. There's someone off screen who is coming in.
You can see his hand kind of coming in there.
So he's about to shoot it, but this guy closes him down. So he has to go around him. And then again, that's another opportunity for another defender to come in and close him down. And he ends up he shoots here. That? Yeah. So he was on the left side of the little U, and he ends up on the right side of the U with 5 defenders now in the frame. He's shooting it off balance, and it goes wide. He makes good connection, but it's just like you got to be a little bit more decisive. You have essentially a 1v1. The second defender was close, but in the final frame where he finally gets a shot off, there's 6 defenders in frame.
He also, it seems like he had an easy ball to play in there. Like if you go to 5B on your screen there, it seems like he couldn't just play that ball to, I think that's Ledesma.
Yeah, I mean on a 3. Yeah, there was a lot of opportunities to do a lot of better things than end up off balance, taking a shot across goal. He makes really good contact with it, and if it's on goal, it's probably a goal. It was great striking of the ball, but it goes wide, and it's just like you got to do better. When we're in this position, we have to do better. So that's kind of the. And then I believe this is the final. Yeah, this is his goal. again, this was late in the game.
I've never seen so many times a player running at a goalie with
That's
just
what I'm
defenders
saying. He's in
chasing
so much
him.
space, and it's not. Again, I didn't show the lead up to it because it wasn't good play. It wasn't a great run. Like he's just in free space, but he does well to get opposite.
He had 38 in the fucking spin zone.
He does well to get on the opposite side of him. So he wants to get it on his right foot. So it's either he's going to come on to his right foot and steal it, and you need it to be on your left, or you need to do well to get across him, which he does. 38 ends up on his left shoulder. He gets on his strong foot, and this time he finishes the little dink. So
he does dink finish here. He doesn't go right corner.
Dink. Yeah, no, just he sets it up, dinks it right over the goalkeeper. A good finish, but again, he's in a lot of space. He should have had a hat trick. He should have had 4 big chances created, and this is all we get from the performance. As you see in the bottom left corner, it's a 7.8 on SofaScore, and it's just like, in reality, this is like a 4 or a 5, in my opinion. Like
goal and an assist, but sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, a goal and assist, it's always going to bring the score up, of course, but that's just kind of he was good, he was active, he got into all the right spaces, just a little wasteful, in my opinion, and that is the Pepe performance. So I'm happy that we ended up on the Pepe thing because there's so much being talked about him, and there's a lot of people who are not watching him and just saying, oh, Pepe scored again, Pepe's going to a big club, and think it's all sunshine and rainbows for Pepe, and just want to present a little additional information.
No, yeah, I mean, it's good for you to do a Pepe once in a while because obviously I spin it a little bit differently often, so it's good to have a little parody on the pod.
Which does take us straight into our updated power rankings. I would say this is the most movement we've had from a power rankings thus far. I will say 4 players off of last week's list, including Balogun, McKennie, McKenzie, and Tessman, all off the list. And this one kind of broke down into 4 different tiers for me. So we'll start at 1. Pulisic, he's going to keep his top spot, but probably for the final time for the next month or so. But Pulisic's still at the top spot. I put Tillman 2, Pepe 3. I think those have been the top 3 for the past 2 to 3, maybe 4 weeks. And then the next tier finishing out the top 5 was Tyler Adams at 4 and Antonee Robinson at 5. 2 players becoming extremely integral to 2 Premier League sides who are performing at a very high level. Then the next tier, 6 and 7, were Weah and Musa. 2 players consistently starting for their clubs, not playing their best football at the moment, but are obviously extremely important to their teams that they're consistently starting for 2 of the biggest clubs in Italy. And then you get 8, 9, and 10, starting with Ledesma, who you touched on, finally got his goal, which was very exciting. We got Trusty, who we've talked about him very surface level for a while, and like he could play a part, being his versatility, his athleticism, but keeps 2 clean sheets for Celtic. He slots in at number 9. And then you touched on him, but I think the fact that he even got back into the squad shows that he's coming back from injury. I had Chris Richards finishing off at the number 10 spot. Maybe a little harsh to McKenzie, who's consistently playing 90, but led up 2 goals to Monaco, who's actually been pretty good this year. But yeah, that is the top 10 as of right now. As you said, maybe Richards is lucky to be on, but I'm happy to see that he's at least getting some sort of minutes. We'd like to see him get back.
Where is your panic meter on Chris Richards right now? Because I'm struggling between he's just coming back from injury, he's a young player, they're risk averse, and that's not a very good side in the Premier League. They're leaking goals and he can't get in.
He was like first name on team sheet type of importance to them for a while, and they're not playing well. It's not like they played well without him. And I still think he's just not fit. I think he's not fit. I think he would be playing if he was fit. If we talk and for the next month he's not getting into the side, I'm either causing the panic because nothing happened where he's just not good anymore. Either he's still injured or Palace is just idiotic. But I'm playing if he doesn't play for the next month, My panic meter is going off that he has a serious injury that's not being disclosed because something's like seriously nagging and he's just not getting inside.
Starting December 15th, from December 15th to December 29th, that's 14 days. Crystal Palace have 5 matches. So you'd have to assume there's a lot of rotation. They play Brighton, they play Arsenal twice in 4 days, and then they play Bournemouth and Southampton. Yeah. How many of those matches do we have to... Like, he's definitely going to start at least one of those matches because simply legs and rotation will call for it. How many of those matches are we...
Well, I think we're going to get the answer of it's like, if he doesn't start 2 of those 5 matches, he's just injured. Because regardless of talent, they would need people to play minutes to give them rest. So,
or he's just so out of the plans that they can't even trust him to play.
But that just can't be the case due to everything we've seen in the past. So I think we get the answer over the next 2 weeks because it's like, even if he's not good, which I don't believe could be true, but let's say there's a world where he's not good anymore magically, they would still play him to get minutes from another player. If they start playing youth, if I see center backs out there that are wearing number 72 and 65, then we can hit the panic meter because he's actually injured and it's just not being talked about.
And so let's say that does happen. We're looking for a loan move in January, or we're looking for a permanent transfer in January?
I'm not under the thing that it's a Palace thing. I would be under the assumption that it isn't a deeper injury that's just not being disclosed.
But he's making the bench. Like, players don't usually make the bench if they're not available.
I agree. Which is
I'm not trying to just play devil's advocate here, but like...
No, you're right.
He was in the U.S. men's national team squad 3 weeks ago. Like, that was almost a month ago. Like, we wouldn't have called him up if the idea was he needs to rest. We wouldn't have flown him across the Atlantic if the idea was he needs to rest. Like, I know he didn't play, but...
Let's revisit this conversation and have a much deeper conversation about it. If I see a number 82 at right center back for Crystal Palace, then we may need to hit the panic meter.
All right, that's fair enough.
All right, we appreciate you guys watching. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and as always, if you see a performance, feel free to comment down below, and we will be more than happy to review it. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you next week. Will?
If Austin Trusty keeps another clean sheet, I think I'm gonna have to do an Austin Trusty player performance because
there we go.
I mean, we love Tim Marine, but that left center back spot is not a. No. There's no long-term answer there right now. So let's dive into it a little bit.
All right, sounds good.
Peace.